of the Ashburnham Board of Selectmen to order. We're on a Zoom meeting. Any votes will be taken by roll call. Uh, Can I start with an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor, Leo Jansen's yes.
Rosemary Meisner, yes.
Bill Johnson, yes.
Next, we move on to citizen comments. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on anything not on the agenda tonight? Yes, Claire.
The last meeting, there was an indication that there would be an auction of for town real estate. And I just want to reiterate that we are hoping that you contact the abutters when you sell real estate in town.
Got that, Brian?
Got that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Seeing nobody else, we will now move on to reorganizing the Board of Selectmen. I nominate Bill Johnson to be chairman.
I'll second that.
All in favor, Leo Jansen's yes.
Rosemary Meisner, yes.
Bill Johnson, yes.
And next, I nominate Rosemary Meisner to be clerk.
Second.
All in favor, Leo Jansen's yes.
Rosemary Meisner, yes.
Bill Johnson, yes.
And at this point, I will turn the meeting over to our new chairman, Mr. Johnson.
Thanks, Leo. So, next up on the agenda is going to be the town administrator's update. Brian, take it away.
Good. Chairman, thank you. Over the last week or so, we've met with advisory and capital. We discussed the warrant articles. Each group recommended the ones that were under their jurisdiction. They were very favorable. The other big thing that was done is myself and Randy Williams, the interim DPW superintendent, met with Dane Arnold from Gardner, director DPW, Mayor Nicholson, and Chris Coughlin, the city engineer. And we talked about the municipal agreement between the two communities. It went very well, even though we weren't quite in agreement. There's still more discussion that needs to be done, but it was a good opening meeting. We talked about prior histories and prior problems, how the town of Ashburnham has resolved almost all of our issues. At least with them, we have one issue of infiltration and inflow still on our end, which is a big one, which needs to be addressed sooner rather than later, because that's causing problems both with us and, when we bring it to them, we're paying twice, once to move it over and once for them to pump it. So, that's something that we have to reconcile on our end. But for the host community agreement, we only have one hurdle to overcome. It's a pretty big hurdle, but we're in discussion regarding that, and we'll see where we go from there. Other than that, it's been working on the warrant article presentations, briefing books, and a lot of that stuff to get ready for town meeting tomorrow night.
Anybody have any questions for Brian?
Infiltration, does that mean groundwater is getting into the sewage system?
So it's some groundwater. The real problem is when it rains, like it rained the other day, so heavy, we had, a couple inches of rain, that penetrates in through the cracks in the pipe, the sewer lines, it gets into the piping and gets to the plant, and the plant can't hold as much. So we have to have trucks come in and pump up our tanks and then drive it to Gardner and put it into their system in a different manhole than the one that's there, because we can only put so much into that pumping station.
Okay.
So have we identified where the I&I is in the system, or we just don't know?
There is an I&I report. It does identify some of the highlights. It's, seems to be a lot kind of near the pumping station. But we're sitting down and we're trying to work out a plan to attack that. Money is going to be one of the big hurdles, obviously, to fix that piping.
Brian, on the agreement that we're negotiating with Gardner, have you, I think that Gardner also has an intermunicipal agreement with Templeton on their sewerage. Have you ever seen that agreement?
During our discussion, I haven't seen it, but our discussion with them, I made a few comments and they're like, Templeton signed it. And, so I'm figuring it's pretty close, if not word for what they're giving us. And it probably hasn't changed from the original one 20 plus years ago. But I have some language in there that I have some questions about that I brought up with them.
Okay, very good. Rosemary, anything? I
I'm
guess-
all set.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Next up is the Children's Mental Health Week proclamation, May 2nd through the 8th. And I have some preliminary information about this. And Rosemary, do you have the proclamation?
Well, you sent it to me.
If not, I have it, so.
Yes, I have it. Do
Okay,
you want me
so-
to read it?
Well, let me just start with the intro here so we can
Okay.
get some transition as to how we got here. So a lady by the name of Ann Berube, who is a family support specialist for the Parent Professional Advocacy League, which is a grassroots family-run nonprofit organization that provides families with professional and in the public with training and resources to better understand children's mental health. They work to stamp out stigma and right awareness about the challenges faced by children and youth with mental health needs and their families. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and during the first full week in May this year, which is May 2nd to the 8th, they're celebrating Children's Mental Health Week across Massachusetts. To raise awareness, they're requesting that cities and towns light something up green as a symbol of hope for that cause. And they're hoping that the town of Ashburnham would get on board with that program. They're also asking cities and towns to provide a proclamation to the organization to help them celebrate Children's Mental Health Week. So before we read the proclamation, I think we need to have a motion that will basically allow us to do this. Is anybody interested in throwing that out there?
Yes, I move that we issue a proclamation for the Children's Mental Health Week.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, and we'll call the roll. Bill Johnson, yes. Leo Janssens,
Leo Janssens, yes?
Rosemary.
Yes.
Okay, and with that, if you could be so kind as to read the proclamation, that'd be good.
Whereas the citizens of Ashburnham value their health and mental health and that of their families, therefore they are proud to support observances such as Children's Mental Health Week. And whereas 20% of children and youth live with a mental health condition, and 50% of all lifetime instances of mental health begin before the age of 14. And even some children and youth with the most intense needs and some who are insured may not receive services. And whereas children and youth with mental health needs in elementary, middle, and high school are more likely to be bullied, absent, suspended, expelled, or fail to graduate. And whereas recognizing the early warning signs of mental health needs and obtaining the necessary support, assistance, and treatment gives children and youth better opportunities to lead full and productive lives at home, in schools, and in their communities. And whereas the involvement and partnership of family members in the assessment and treatment of children and youth is essential to positive outcomes. And whereas our nation's future depends on the health and well-being of its families and their children. And whereas Children's Mental Health Week was developed by families of children with emotional, behavioral, and mental health needs to focus on the needs of their children and families. In celebrating this year's theme, painting a picture of hope for the future, it is fitting to increase public awareness among all Ashburnham citizens of this important issue. Now, therefore, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Ashburnham do hereby claim May 2nd through 8th, 2021 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week.
Very good. Anybody have any questions on that? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And I believe, if I understood Mary correctly, there's a couple of lights on Town Hall on the front steps that we are going to light up in green starting tomorrow night. Is that correct, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, next up on the agenda is going to be the bylaw review committee update. And that's going to be me. I've invited the members of the bylaw review committee. And they're certainly, I think they're in attendance. I'm not sure if Dave Perry's here, but certainly the other ones are. And I would just throw out there that when I get done with what I've got here, I'm going to open it up to them if they'd like to add anything to what I said. Certainly, we're available for questions, but this hopefully will give you a good idea of where we are in the process. So this started back in, let's see, the Board of Selectmen appointed the committee, and we were requested in the opening charge to the committee that we report back by May 1st to the Board of Selectmen about what our progress has been. So that's why we're coming before the board tonight to give you an update on where we are. So as I said, the committee was appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and the following members are on the committee. I'm on it from the Board of Selectmen, Walt Meisner from the Planning Board, Glenn Hathaway from the Board of Health, Dave Perry from Zoning Board of Appeals, and Marshall Dennis from the Conservation Commission. We held our first meeting on February 18th, and we have met almost every Thursday at 6 p.m. since that original first meeting. And our schedule will slow down a little bit as we get into the summer months, but we're all committed that we need to put a lot of time and effort into this, and that's what we've been doing. So our general charge from the Board of Selectmen, which was a couple of pages long, I basically reduced it to one sentence, and that is to review the general and zoning bylaws to make sure they reflect current generally accepted practices utilized by similar Massachusetts towns and are in alignment with state regulations. So that in and of itself is a pretty big pill to swallow, as we've all found out. So back in late February, one of the things we did is reach out to Town Council Deb Phillips and speak to her about how the process may work to accomplish this. And a couple weeks later, she got back to us with some information. But in the interim, we started looking at other Massachusetts cities and towns that we felt may have some similarities, or we may be able to get some ideas from them as to how they set up their zoning bylaws. So we looked at Norwood, we looked at Acton, and I'm not sure who else we looked at, but we looked at those two in particular. So we started the review process looking at those, as well as Ashburnham's, and we started looking at formats as to how we were going to go through the recodification. And while we were doing that, Town Council got back to us around March 17th, and she made us aware of a company whose name is General Code that specializes in this type of work and has a significant number of communities that they work with in Massachusetts. So we reached out to General Code, and they came back to us with a proposal. In the meantime, we also received a proposal from Expressive Print to provide support services for this project. General Code made a Zoom presentation to the committee on April 8th and demonstrated their eCode 360 platform, and made us and walked us through, even though I got a typo there, walked us through the recommended process with their online municipal codes, post-project editorial, and legal services. So we took a hard look at that, and the committee voted unanimously to approach the Board of Selectmen about engaging with General Code to provide the support services we'll need to organize this and to get it published. And a short time after that, the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to approve that request. We currently, our contract with them is under review, and we expect within the next week or so that contract will be executed, and we'll get them on board to help with the process. So where are we right now? We're making our first pass through the general bylaws, and I say our first pass because there's going to be multiple passes on these things. We expect to have that completed by May 13th. And then we'll jump in on the zoning bylaws and we'll start that review as well. And once the contract is signed with general code, they're going to assign us an editor and we'll work with the editor and they'll be our direct contact as we go through the whole recodification process. And as is outlined in the original charge, the project's expected to take about 18 to 24 months. So I know I went through that quickly, and I would open it up for comments from people on the bylaw review committee that are there, if they want to throw something in that I missed, and certainly questions from the board.
Yeah, this is Glenn Hathaway. The only thing we had, Bill, you sent out to the different different committees within the town and the town municipal plan, I believe, and we had a pretty light response. We were trying to get some feedback from everybody. Is there something in the general bylaw or the zoning bylaw that has been an issue? And we had maybe 2 or 3 responses. So I just, maybe we go out again once we stop this, but I just want everybody to know, again, I think NIMS had responded, something about snow removal, pushing snow into the street, and maybe one other comment. I guess we were surprised that there weren't more comments. So I would just bring that up to everybody, that maybe we again send out a request to people to go, you know, other issues that people have had over the years with that. That's all I have.
That's a great point. Thanks, Glenn. Anybody else that from the committee that wants to throw anything out?
This is Marshall Dennis. All I can say is that the more you look, at least at the general bylaws that we've looked at to date, the more you realize that updating the bylaws is long overdue. There are a lot of issues that need to be resolved, and it's certainly a timely action that I think we all look forward to resolving.
This is Walt Meisner, and I would just say I agree with everything that's been said. It's a good process, long overdue.
Yeah, so there's, as the military would say, this is a target-rich environment. There's a lot of things in there that need to be updated. We're taking a look at, a lot of the bylaws contain fees, and we're not sure if fees should be in the actual bylaw, if there should be a separate schedule that gets put together. The other thing is that the way the original charge was laid out, we're not going to be able to adhere to exactly what the Board of Selectmen had asked us to do. And the reason for that is the bylaws really are in tough shape. So what's going to happen with this process with general code is that they're going to take everything that we have right now and they're going to put it through their system, and they're going to regroup it, they're going to renumber it, they'll go through that whole recodification process. The things are going to be grouped together where they should be grouped together, like the marijuana bylaws will be together, and just as one example. And they're going to come out with basically a new bylaw book. And once we get that and get that approved, then we're actually going to go through the process of eliminating, changing, rewriting, whatever you want to call it, updating to get things in there where they need to be. Normally that process happens all at the same time, but the committee decided, because of the disarray that we have, that we really needed to establish what the new format was going to be first, so that as we make changes, they'll be pretty obvious where they need to go and how they get implemented. And with general code, they're going to take us through that process. They're actually going to do the legal review on all these as well to make sure that they're compliant with mass general laws. We don't have any conflicts of things that we have in one section versus another. So they'll absolutely bring it up to date. And then it'll get published. And it's a process we're going to go through on an annualized basis. When a bylaw is proposed to be changed, general code will be involved with that process, so that it'll go exactly where it's supposed to go. And it's not going to be left up to chance as to where it ends up in the book, or does it end up on the website, or things like that. So it's a great system. If you want to, if you're bored and have nothing to do, you could go into the town of Templeton's. They just finished their process with E-code, and this thing is going to be slick. When you go into the bylaws and you click on it, it's going to take you right to the Mass General Law, for example. It's going to be easy reference, cross-referencing. When new bylaws are established, they'll get put in a separate section until you go through the process of, which is annual, of republishing the book and updating it. But they'll be segregated and be in a separate part of the of our website, so that'll be easy to find. And we're also hoping for some work to be done on the maps and things that go along with that. So again, long process, but it desperately needs to be done. Any questions from the board?
I got one. Now using general code, where the bylaw presently calls for going over the bylaws every 5 years, and with what you guys just said, that it's been longer than 5 years and they're such a mess. As long as we stay subscribed to general code, they're gonna be current year to year, and then they're not gonna fall behind like this, correct?
I think that's my understanding, Leo. I'm not 100% sure where the 5 years came from. If that's something that is just a bylaw that where we have that information in there, or if it's a requirement by Mass General Law. Really haven't asked the question. We're kind of waiting for general code to get on board, but I think the short answer is yes, we shouldn't have or get ourselves in the situation that we find ourselves now, where it's been years and years and years since these have been looked at. And certainly the world has changed. A lot of general laws have changed. Some of the things that are in there, we're not even sure if they need to be in there anymore. They just maybe needs to be a reference to Mass General Law, like the building code, for example. Water and sewer. The water and sewer in our general bylaw is 32 pages long. The whole code's 100. The general bylaws is 100. Water and sewer is 32 pages. And the whole thing's governed pretty much by Mass General Law. So do you need to have 32 pages of information in there? Maybe you need 5 pages of information and then, a reference to Mass General Law. So those are the types of things we're looking at.
Which would make sense.
I'll just add that the legal aspect of what general code is going to provide is also extremely important. There's a recent court case where it was decided that a town may not adopt a general bylaw to restrict a use that the town has historically regulated by zoning bylaws. So, as we go through one set of bylaws, the generals, and go through the other ones, we need to be cognizant of that as well. And that's something that general code will help us out with.
Excellent point, Marshall. Yeah, and back to Glenn's point too. And I think, Brian, I'm going to be reaching out to you for some assistance on this. Obviously, some of the people on this committee deal with codes more than others. Myself, as an example, I rarely deal with them, but we are going to need a lot of input from our department heads and anybody on the payroll that's involved with this. We've got the building inspector. We're looping her in on a lot of these things, and he's communicating back and forth with us. But at some point in time, as Glenn had suggested, we're going to go back out and ask for input from the department heads. So I would ask for your support and making sure that those folks are engaged in the process and they understand the importance of what we're trying to do, because really, we got one shot to get this thing right, and we want to make sure that we do it the way it's supposed to be done.
Sure. If I might add, department heads will definitely assist. And if, you need me to step in to make sure they're finding the time and whatnot to acknowledge your letters and correspondence, definitely let me know. But I've talked to all of them. They're all very good, and they're all ready to have the bylaw change, so it makes their life a lot easier, and they understand, what they need to do also. So thank you, and I appreciate the support of everyone on the committee. I think it's a very good thing.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else from the bylaw review committee? Anything else you want to throw out there? No, I do want to extend my thanks to everybody as well. It's a lot of work. People have been committed to it. I know we're going to stay committed to it, and we're going to do a good job with this thing. But I do want to extend my appreciation to everybody's time and effort they're putting in there. Okay, let's leave that topic and move on to affordable housing. Rosemary, is that something you want to talk about? Do you want me to talk about? How would you like to proceed?
Well, it's just the appointment of Michael Kirkpatrick to the Affordable Housing Trust Committee. So he would be the last member in the initial trust committee. But he had applied, and we have not received any other applications. So we thought we'd move forward with that, particularly since I'm assuming, Brian, you might engage with them as we get ready for the land auction, the town-owned land auction.
Yeah, definitely. And, we had some assistance, I think, from MHP or whatever. They were looking to help out and make some assistance with how we need to develop that committee and grow, get on up to speed, so to speak, because none of us have really the background of that committee. But yeah, we're definitely ready to move forward with that and take a look at any opportunities for that.
All right, will somebody give me a motion to appoint Michael Kirkpatrick to the Affordable Housing Trust Committee?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Bill Johnson, yes.
Leo Jansen, yes.
Rosemary Meissner, yes.
Excellent, thank you very much. All right, up next is approval of minutes. First up will be Monday, April 5th, 2021. Has everybody had a chance to review that document?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody interested in offering a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of April 5th, 2021.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll call the vote. Bill Johnson, yes.
Leo Jansen, yes.
Rosemary Meissner, yes.
And next up will be the minutes of Tuesday, April 20th. Anybody interested in giving a motion on that?
I move that we accept the minutes of April 20th, 2021.
I'll second that.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Bill Johnson, yes.
Leo Jansen, yes.
Rosemary Meissner, yes.
Okay. Next is going to be other business. Does anybody have any other business that they want to bring up at this time?
Yes, there's a May 6th meeting of the MRPC. And we're asked if somebody from our board is going to be attending that. That was something that came from Roger Hoyt.
Leo, do you know if Roger is still on that board?
He said he can continue as the rep, as it does not require being a planning board member per the Ashburnham Planning Board procedural rules.
Because currently now I'm the alternate.
Okay,
So he attends and I only attend when he can't.
okay.
I'm fine giving up my alternate seat if somebody else wants to take that. I've only went once, so it's not a heavy lift.
Okay. So
So should we need to find out if Roger's going to go to the meeting then?
yeah, because he says he can still continue and he doesn't have to be a current member of the planning board.
Can you forward me that email, Leo, when you get a chance?
Yep.
And what I'll do is I'll reach out to him and see if he definitely still wants to do that. If he wants to attend, that's fine. He can continue in that role. And we won't make any decisions tonight about who's going to be covering what. We'll get back to that the next time around. When Rosemary's not here, we'll go ahead and assign her to some committees.
Special meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah. So I'm only kidding.
Just a question. Do you know when Roger's legal appointment, whatever it's called, to the planning board ceases?
I believe it has.
It already did.
Yeah, it has.
It already did? So he's done.
Right.
Yes.
So
Okay.
as is the case with all the, when the election happens, essentially the next day. Now, there had been some talk with the board going back a while that maybe we revisit that and have some sort of a transition period before Board of Selectmen and others take on their new roles, but it's not anything we've really looked at, pursued, or looked into the legalities of how you would make
Okay.
it happen. So
All right, thanks.
it's officially done. And I think Steve Coswell ran and got elected to the planning board, so he's the new member there. But obviously Roger has a wealth of knowledge about all things related to planning and MRPC. So if we can keep him engaged, I think that would be a good thing for the town of Ashburnham.
And I think there may be a change coming because they have one member that's always appointed as opposed to being elected. And I hear rumors that that position may be changing.
We did just put that on the volunteer. It's the associate member that was formerly Skip Nolan.
Okay, so he officially gave it up?
Well, planning board's looking to see if there's any interested parties, and applications or letter of interest are due by May 10th.
I heard a rumor that Roger Hoyt might go for that. But I think we'll have to reach out to him because I'm not sure how accurate that is.
Yeah, I heard the same.
I'll follow up with Roger and see what we can find out what's going on with his plans. Anything else under other business? Okay, then we'll move on to reminders. Rosemary?
Okay, the annual town meeting is tomorrow night, May 4th, 2021 at 7 PM at Oakmont High School. And the next Board of Selectmen meeting will be Monday, May 17th, 2021 at 6:30 PM. And that will be a Zoom meeting.
All right. Next up on the agenda is executive session. So under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 18-25, number 2, the board's going to go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And we have to do that. So I need a motion, please, to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session.
I'll second that.
All right, moved and seconded, and we'll call the roll. Bill Johnson, yes.
Leo Jansen, yes.
Rosemary Meissner, yes.
Okay, so I guess I need to read all this stuff here. Quorum being present and the majority having voted to go into executive session, the chair states that the meeting notice and posting of the meeting were given, and that we will be reconvening only to recess. And this has to do, as I said earlier, to deliberate upon matters which, if done in open meeting, could detrimentally affect the position of the town regarding contract negotiations with non-union personnel. So having said that, I'll thank everybody for attending tonight, and we'll wait a couple of minutes for things to get squared away, then we'll go into executive session. Thank you.
Bill, with what you just read, did you read it off a form?
I did.
Is that the one you have to fill out?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Yeah, I stopped in and talked to Mary and Brian today, and so they sent it over to me, and I think we figured it out, and I have to, so I've got to fill it in, sign it, and Mary's actually looking into seeing if we can do it electronically.
That would make it easier.
Yeah, so she's working on that, but we knew it wouldn't be ready for tonight.
And then for the future too, like last week when we had that hearing on the utility pole,
Mhm.
whenever there's a hearing, Mary has a format that we follow where you ask if somebody wants to speak in favor or somebody wants to speak against.
Okay, I'll get my hands on that too. Thanks. Okay, we all clean here?